All right, we are live today right here on Facebook. My name is Tony Zioli. I'm the founder of Digital Strategy Works, which is a WordPress digital strategy company. We don't just build websites, we build experiences for our clients that get results from traffic to revenue, to usability, to all kinds of end goals for our clients. We also, or I also do WordPress training and consulting at tonyzeoli.com, and you can find me there, TonyZeoli. .com, which is my training, coaching, and consulting site. And I train, coach, and consult to small businesses on WordPress and everything else around WordPress, not just WordPress itself, but digital marketing strategy based on WordPress being your base website, and what it is that we do with WordPress every day to inform our visitors and our audience, and sell them products or services, or inform them of news and information, or whatever have you, right? So what we're going to talk about today is something that I've been thinking about over the last couple of weeks as I work with different small business owners on their websites. And one of the challenges that I find with my clients is that they come somewhat unprepared in terms of building their websites, and they come to me with questions, with limited set of information. They see sites out there that they like. They might have a website already that's no longer working, or they need a new website that does more than whatever it is that their competitors are doing, and it really comes down to me sitting down with them, whether it's in person or online through a web chat, and kind of defining out what it is that we're going to need from that small business owner in order to build the site. And one of the critical things that we need today is photography, right? So when we're building our WordPress websites, or any website for that matter, whether you're building on Squarespace or Wix or wherever have you, right? You need good photography. And a lot of people don't know where or how to do that. I have one client who has an amateur photographer on the client's staff at a restaurant, and she is taking all their food photography and event photography. And that makes it easy for that client to be able to integrate photography into their website, right? You can't, even though iPhones are great and they're really an incredible tool nowadays, you can't just depend on the iPhone for all your photography. The other thing is, it's not just the iPhone. The iPhone might take great photos, but what about your ability to compose a photo, right? Your ability to understand what it is that you're shooting and putting that shot together in terms of whether it has to be prepared in advance, or whether it's an impromptu shot on the fly that you are shooting. You want to make sure that you have great high quality photography on your website. And so what that means is, either you have to find and hire a local photographer who you or you've got through a referral, and bring that person in, and maybe you do a barter or a trade or something like that. If you're a small business and you don't have all of the money that the photographer might ask for in their fee, maybe you can work out something. But photography today is photography and videography are so super important to any website. Sure, we can buy stock photos, but then that begets the sameness. If people or our competitors are buying the same stock photos, or if other websites out there are using the same stock photos, right? It doesn't differentiate your business. So you really want to focus on, first, before you even start to think about building a website, think about your business that you have. Maybe you have a restaurant, maybe a restaurant cafe or a bar. Maybe you have an office building, a machine shop. I remember I did project in Boston, the Boston area, for one of my father's friends' companies. It was a machine shop up north of Boston, about 30 miles north of Boston. And I rented a camera and I flew up there and I shot. I got a high quality Canon, I think it was a 5D. And even though I may not know how to efficiently use a 5D like a professional photographer, I mean, these tools are now so great, you can just really point and shoot. And if you have a little bit of camera knowledge in terms of the features and functions, you can get around it. But I shot the whole machine shop, and I got some great action photos out of that shop, and I took some great photos of machines at work, the people at work, and that really enhanced the website because it personalizes the site, and it gives a site visitor the idea that I know this company, I know this, I can know these people, right? If you're using stock photography, there's, excuse me, there's limited personalization in that, right? Excuse me. You can show that you've got, a machine shop, but that's not your machine shop. It's not your employees. It's not the products that they're building, right? So you really want to deep dive into photography and videography for your website. And whether you use YouTube or Vimeo or some other method to get video in, there are all kinds of myriads of ways. There's a way to do background video where you can put text over a video on a home splash page. We did for Pleasant Green Farms out in Hillsborough, North Carolina, where we got some drone footage, which was really cool for their kind of hero area on their homepage of their website, where you just see this expansive farm, this rolling farmland that's beautiful, and all these gorgeous, $1 million homes that are situated on the property. So really important to think about, even before you contact your web developer. I need to go out and get photos and video, and I need a professional or an semi-pro, an amateur who's doing good work to barter with, or to pay some kind of different rate if you can work it out, to get those assets, because that is what a web developer is going to need to show the personality of the business. Now, there are times, I'll give you another example. One of my clients, Total Merchant Resources, they were on Shark Tank. So we're using their Shark Tank video for a homepage background video with overlay text and call to action, so that people can identify, oh, those were the guys on Shark Tank, and there's the video. Now, the video might not be the best quality, but that's not the point. The point was to relate the consumer or the customer, the client, to this company and say, this is Jason and Val, they were on Shark Tank. If you work with them, you can win too, right? So whatever video you have, whether you have, some video where you were in an interview on TV, or whether you have video of drone footage of your property or whatever have you, or you have interior photos, interior shots, good to have. And those are good to have for Google too, right? So Google has the knowledge box on the right now when somebody searches for your business, and they want you to upload photos of your business, right? So it kills two birds with one stone, so to speak, right? To have great photos of your business, of your team, individually, together. When you shoot those photos, you shoot them on a backdrop, kind of a singular backdrop where it's standardized. So say you're shooting 20 team members. Maybe you shoot them all on one wall with some images in the back, like these, like I have over my shoulder here, right? If I can point the right way. You can see, right? I'm framing the shot with some interesting images behind me, right? So you want to do those things before you start, right? And so the second thing that happens is, small business owners come to me and they see other websites and they say, I want that site. And I had a recent client that wanted a very highly stylized, not interactive, I should say motion, with motion graphics, a lot of motion. There was an agency website out in California that he showed me. A lot of motion going on, a lot of cool stuff. And they say, I want that, but then they don't know how much that costs. And in that, they came to me and and I had to go and do my research to say, if you only have a budget of X, I expect this to be a budget of Y. And if you can't do that budget of Y, then we have to pull back. And he said, oh, no, I wasn't prepared to do that budget of Y. I'm only prepared to do a budget of X. But you raised, you educated me. You showed me why it would have cost me more. And now I know, right? So there's the second component, right, of the not knowing how much it really costs, right? So the DIY thing is you could sit there and you could try, go out and shoot your own photos. You could sit down in front of a computer. You could install WordPress yourself on Bluehost or GoDaddy or whatever. And then, you start your website and then you don't even know how to pick a theme. You don't know what the different plugins do. So now you're going to go and learn that, and on the DIY part, time is money, right? So if you're running a small business, and you need a website, but website development isn't your forte, then it does make sense to go out and seek out some professional help. Now, I had one young woman recently contact me with a $400 to $500 budget. Unfortunately, my company, we have a very high hourly rate because we've been in business for, over 10 years. We're an agency. We do major custom design and development. We build applications within our websites, and we also apply other tools that we know about. And so, we have the whole digital strategy part around what we do. So she really wasn't aware of that. So I kind of educated her on where to get some help, how to look for somebody who's just looking to get, to do a quick website for that kind of money, and then sent her on her way. And she appreciated just the knowledge that I shared. So, so now you've got, your photography. Then you've got your ideation. Well, what's my website going to be? What's it going to do? What's it going to look like? And they come to me and they ask me to solve the problem. And maybe they come to me with a small budget. And I say to them, I'm not the right guy for you because I can't solve your problems at this budget, because solving your problems at the budget level that you're showing me is going to take an inordinate amount of time. And that's going to bring my hourly rate down to, $10 an hour. I could really go out and work at Starbucks for more, but people somehow think that web design and development should be cheap, but it's not cheap when it's good. When it's good, it's going to get you clients, get you customers. It's going to inform and educate your customers, and it's going to convert your customers. And therein lies the rub, is that they're going to generate revenue for your business. So you have to look at applying dollars to your website in the same way that you apply dollars to the build in your cafe. You can't open a cafe in a empty space with no chairs, no tables, no interior design, no cafe cases, no refrigerators, you need to spend money to do all those things. And then you turn around and you look at your website, which is your single most important marketing function of your business, and then you say to yourself, well, I can save money on that. I can do it on the cheap. But doing it on the cheap means introducing problems that you don't even know exist before you even start. So let's go through a list that I kind of came up with, right? The first thing is the preparation. I talk about the photos, I talk about the video, I talk about the content, right? Most of the people that come to me, they don't have yet written content for their pages. What prevents you from doing the about content for your about page? What prevents you from doing the content for your catering page, right? And just thinking about those things well before you sit down and meet with a developer, because that's going to help you save time and money, because then the developers or the agency is going to say, well, where is your written content? Where is your video content? Where is your audio content? And you're going to say, well, I don't have it yet. And then they're going to say, well, we're going to put some dummy content in to show you what it could potentially look like. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to become a content producer and produce that content. So it's not just a website that you're building, it's producing the content. Who's producing it? On what schedule? And when is it going live? Is it static content that lives forever? Is it dynamic content that you do on a daily basis? you have to think about all those things before you do your website. Who is going to produce the content, the blogs, the podcasts, the video content? And those things are super important. Most of the clients that I see have static websites that just sit there, and they don't blog, and they don't do video, and they don't do certain things. And that's bad for SEO, because you need traffic to build trust and authenticity and interest in your product or brand. And if you're doing nothing but just setting up some basic pages and sharing just the cost of things, right, then really, how are you educating your client, your potential client or customer, and why they should value your business? So now you have to think about that content. So let's go back over that. You've got video, photo, you've got text, right? You've got potential interactives, you've got potential forms that you want them to fill out, you've got potential infographics that you want to show them, right? So, when you have a form that you want somebody to fill out, you have to come to me with a form field and say, hey, Tony, I need a form on my contact us page, but I don't just need first name, last name, email address, and message. I need phone number. I need them to select how did you hear about us, or something like that, so I can take, more of a poll or whatever have you. So those kinds of things are super important in terms of prepping for your website. It's really aggregating buckets of information that you're going to fulfill, and then you're going to hand to a developer and say, even if you just do one piece of content in each area, that way you have some dummy content that you've done that you can put into your new site build that will look like what you want it to look like, instead of some dummy content. You can say, well, that doesn't really look like us, right? So you want your website to reflect your personality. And so providing that upfront content to your web developer is super critical, right? So we talked about photography, videography, text content, maybe infographics, maybe audio podcasts, maybe there's some interactive content that you want to share, like maybe there's a map of the United States and you want somebody to roll over the map and click on a state and do something, right? You have to have all these things in mind, right, before you ask for the estimate, because if you don't have them in mind, then how is the web developer going to know what you want, and how are they going to know what to estimate? They're not, right? And in the estimate, sometimes they can't just estimate, this is going to cost $25, or this is going to cost $100, or this is going to cost $5,000. We don't know what we don't know yet, because we're in the build phase. We're thinking about the product development, right? So when you think about a term for this phase, it's called product development. It's the research and development of your product online that you're aggregating and facilitating, right? Then that gets into design and layout, right? How many small business owners can raise their hand and say, I know how to do graphic design? Very few, right? Or else, they'd be doing graphic design full time. If they really knew how to do graphic design, they'd be a graphic designer. Or they're leaving graphic design and they're going into small business in another area, and they'll do their own graphic design. But most small business owners know nothing about graphic design, and that's okay. You don't have to know anything about graphic design. That's why you hire designers, right? Those designers should present you with a portfolio of work that, may not exactly be like what you want, but that they can get there with some design direction, right? Now, design direction is subjective, right? And it's based on somebody's professional experience. If they're a professional usability, or user experience designer, right? They're a professional user experience designer. They've done this over and over and over again. They've studied color theory. They've studied photography. They've studied all kinds of different things. Now, I've done that in my career. I've gone back to school. I've studied those things. I know how to apply those things. I can work with designers and developers in order to get what I need, right? But most people don't study design. Most people don't study color theory. Most people don't even know what a motion graphic is. If I even said the word motion graphic, they'd say, what do you mean by motion graphic? How does a graphic get motion? There are tools that do that, right? How do I do interactivity on a page? They don't even know how to get interactivity because they don't understand JavaScript, or they don't understand maybe, you're still using Flash or something like that, like how to bring together visual elements to create motion graphics or interactivity, right? So those are some of the issues that as a site owner you might face, and you say, well, I just want a website, right? But at the end of the day, the questions are going to come up. You can't just say, I just want a website, right? I just want a website as a non-starter, because it doesn't give anybody any information. And when you think about an organizational behavior, if you're not communicating exactly what you want, and you just, you're very short, you're very brief, you're very concise, you don't provide a bigger picture, you don't provide detail, then somebody like me is going to say, well, I don't know how to help you get you what you need, because you're not communicating it effectively. I got a client the other day that didn't end up continuing on with us because he didn't really like what I really pushed him on that. I said, you give me a list, here is your list, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point. I want, you to refresh my site a little bit. What does that mean, refresh my site a little bit? Well, like what? How? Show me examples. What does refresh mean to you? Do you mean, redo your logo? Do you mean choose another font? Do you mean you want a new color scheme? Do you mean you want a new layout? Well, this layout's working for me right now. Well, is it really working for you? What's your click-through rate? Are people clicking on the load more icon at the bottom of your post because you have this load more icon that you expect that people are going to see, but are they really seeing it? Do you even know? And then he'll say, and then the client said, well, that's not really all that important. No, it is important, because if you're going to be successful online, you have to work through the issues that you're having now, and you have to be able to communicate what it is that you want in a detailed, methodical way, and whether it's in writing or in screenshots and you annotate them or whatever have you, right? You have to be able to do that, and that's the thing about small business owners, right? Is we're so busy doing what we do best, running our small business, that we forget that we aren't conveying our design sensibility to our developer or designer. So we need to step back and look at ourselves and say, hey, what I'm doing now is useless to the person I'm talking to, and it's wasting his time and it's wasting my time, because I'm not giving him specifics. I like site A, B, and C. Here are the links. What I like about these sites are the fonts. What I like about these sites are the colors. What I like about these sites are the layout of information. What I like about these sites are the ease of navigation. What I like about these sites are they use quirky icons, and I really want quirky icons, right? That's the kind of discussion we want to be having with a small business owner. And a small business owner on the DIY side is going to be taxed in the fact that they have to spend an inordinate amount of time to figure out what it is that they really want, right? If you come to an agency or experienced designer and developer, we're going to know the answers to those questions, and we're going to solve those problems very quickly, right? So design and layout are a really big challenge, because people are, well, what's a footer? What's a header? What's a widget sidebar? Can I have a widget sidebar in the body of my content? Can I have, what in my content can change dynamically? All these kinds of things that they're not really prepared to answer as a small business owner. So they just do the default. They just do a flat page. They throw a bunch of text up there with a bunch of willy-nilly images, and they come up with some ugly page that doesn't deliver the information correctly, right? Because they got frustrated with the idea that they had to answer questions, right? You've got to express what you want, right? When you go out and you want to shop for new clothing, you go to a store that has that new clothing. When you shop for a developer or designer, they show you a portfolio of work, and maybe they've done something similar for you before, or for someone else before, and they can do the same thing for you, right? So you've got things like colors. Are you experiencing color theory? You've got things like fonts. Do you want a sans serif? Do you want a serif? Do you want playful? Do you want serious? Do you want salesy? Do you want bold? Do you want articulate? Do you want, what is the theme that you're going for? And so going through the Google font library would be something that you might want to do. and finding, 20 or 30 different fonts that you like, and then handing it off to the designer or developer and saying, hey, I like these fonts. I really want to work with these, right? Motion graphics, right? There are a lot of new tools like Elementor for WordPress is a website page builder, and they have come out with this horizontal sliding. It's almost like a slider, right? Like your traditional slider where you click on a button, but this is on scroll or some other action where it's not a slider per se or carousel, but it's a horizontal scroll of pages of information, right? Which is really neat, a really neat trick. So, and then there are other things like I saw this website the other day that one of my potential clients wants, where this kind of glass breaks and words kind of appear behind the glass or the glass is behind the words as the glass breaks, right? Or it puts it back together into this mosaic of glass. So, knowing that you want to get there, you have to go out and look and do your research and look at hundreds of websites to decide, how do I want my website to look, right? What kind of elements do I want it to be in it design-wise, from the fonts, from the colors, from an emotion. And then the designer and developer have to think about usability of the things that you want. So for example, I have a client who already has a pre-existing site. She has a site map on her, she has a image map, of the United States. But the image map doesn't squeeze down to mobile. On desktop it stays, right? But on mobile, when it squeezes down to mobile, right? And say, mobile's out, mobile, here's the left and right of mobile. Well, outside here, the map still exists. Maybe it's California, Oregon, Washington State, Utah, Texas fall outside of the mobile window, right? So you have to think about that. If I use iframe content, how's that going to look when it responds to mobile? And okay, well, I didn't know there was a cost that went into content that's iframed, that now I have to adjust that iframe for mobile, or can I even adjust that iframe? Does the company that's providing the iframe content provide me with the ability to resize that content for mobile? I'm working with another client right now where I tried the iframe radio player, and it wouldn't do it correctly in the tool that I was using. So, we have to be careful of what it is that we want. We have to go around, we have to look, and we have to take screenshots, and we have to have a folder full of those screenshots, and we have to explain them, and we have to annotate them to our agency, to our designer, to our developer, so they can know what we want, right? Because I can't know what you want if you're not providing me with that information, right? So that's usability. Is this product usable? Then we have to sit down and say, do your ideas make sense, right? I saw another client, I was on a Facebook group for WordPress SEO professionals, and somebody posted something and they had a black background with white text. And everybody in web development knows that you don't put white text on a black background, or you don't have solid black text, because it can be, it can cause fatigue in the eye. It's not readable for some people that have, optical issues, vision issues with their eyes. And so, we deal with that. And that's in terms of the collapsing components of sites and whatnot, what's all that going to look like. So there's problems with usability with your ideas, because you may have had an old site that you didn't even know had usability issues. Now you want a new site, but you want to mitigate those new usability issues. And a good web developer or brand agency or designer is going to come and tell you you have usability issues across platforms, across tablet, mobile, desktop. And we got to solve for those, so whenever somebody is in an environment, they get the perfect instance of the site, right? So it's almost like making 3 sites again. You've got mobile responsive, but only it's making one site that responds to the screen size. And those are very important things that we have to do, right? Then on top of that, there's accessibility, right? So if I'm a provider of wheelchairs or some, medical product to an elderly community, is my site accessible for the hearing impaired? Is my site accessible, for the visually impaired, right? So what is it that I can do? Do I need to have bigger text, or do I need to have audio speaking back a page content because somebody is unable to see the site, right? So we got to talk about accessibility as well. And in that, we have to talk about showing content based on accessibility. Like, why would you show somebody who has accessibility issues video or audio content if they can't hear and they can't see, right? So you want to make sure that you handle your accessibility issues as well. Then we come down to the content itself, writing, production, the audio and video content. How are you going to do that, right? And in my experience, I can come in and be a consultant and help facilitate all that, which I've done in the past, or you're going to need to hire a small team. You're going to have to DIY that. And then in that, do you really know how to do it? So that's another concern, right? Is doing the audio and video production of content. Who's going to disseminate it? Who's going to distribute it? Who's going to market it? Who's going to backlink from it to my site? All these kinds of things. And who's the author of posts, so author can show up higher in search. All that goes into SEO and content production that you need to be aware of, right? Then you've got marketing. And on the marketing side, you have lead and landing pages, you have lead magnets, you have digital marketing, which is, Facebook, Google, AdSense, or AdWords. You have, LinkedIn premium advertising, or, whatever they call it. And you have Twitter advertising, and then you have other sites like Instagram and Pinterest accepting advertising now. So you got to think about, well, how do I develop this media strategy, and what am I going to say? Because I can do text ads and or visual ads. Am I going to do a visual ad that converts? Am I going to do a text ad that converts? I'm going to do an A/B test on text and visual, just so I can see what the related what the A/B test and split test can show me, which one does better in terms of call to action and and a click through to that page or post for that product, right? So then we've got lead magnets, right? You want to give something away to get something. I want your email address. I'm going to give you the top 10 list every time, right? Something like that. Who creates those in your environment? Who's going to make those happen, right? Then you've got blogging. Who's going to blog? Who's going to podcast? Who's going to record those podcasts? Who's going to edit them? Who's going to put on the front and the back of a podcast? Who's going to put a jingle for the company or something like that? You've got blogging. Who's going to write? Who's going to upload approved photos? Somebody could do a photo and you may not agree with that photo, and you may not want it on your site. So you may have to get into an editorial workflow with your content editor who's blogging for the business, and you're going to have to say, hey, look, send this up first, but let's not post it until such time as I review it, right? Then you've got, mailing lists. Mailing lists are super critical, right? They still show a high rate of return in terms of direct marketing. So you want to have a good, solid message. You want to have a good, shiny new bell out there. If you're, some restaurant or something like that people can ring when they come in, that can show up in video or audio on the mailing list or whatever have you. And that's important. So aggregating a mailing list, that's capturing your customer right when they walk in the store. They give you their email list, and now, or they give you their email, you add it to your list, and now you can market your services direct to customer, right? Retargeting. Retargeting is when you take out a Facebook ad and then you put a piece of code in your website. So when somebody comes to the site, they interact with the code, which they don't even know they're doing unless they've got a cookie policy that they haven't set. And then that will bring them over to the other side of the pad, which or the machine, which has its own pad, where you might do 21 reps of your exercise, right? Then you've got and then you've got in that, Facebook is then saying, okay, I know I have a client X, and that client is going to put in X amount of dollars on the retargeting campaign or the advertising campaign, and I know they're going to put keywords in. So whenever somebody visits a keyword or something on that page, they're gonna, if they click on something, they're gonna convert into Tony's site instead of some other site. We also have SEO, search engine optimization. There's a lot more to SEO than meets the eye. Very critical to work with an SEO professional to help you. Set up the site, set up proper SEO. Maybe you can take it over one day, but it's really good to work with them for at least a year until you get familiar with their product and their service. Then you've got things like, antenna. I've got MC antenna. I think it was more like who are you going to have jump in the middle of the crowd and be on the mic, and who are you going to have on the backstage. Maybe you have one guy jumping into the crowd and one guy on the mic. That gives everybody some equal time out there on the camera, field of view, but it also gives the camera something to shoot at that's interesting. And so that's all I have today. So the real goal with this webinar today was to just talk about how difficult it is for a business owner, small business owner, to go out and do their own site. I just got one sent to me, say, hey, Tony, can you redo this? Because I don't know how, right? So now I have to go in and learn a little bit about Shopify, learn a little bit about what they're doing, fix their site in a way that it's more intended to look like, and then move on from there. Right. So you can reach me at tonyzeoli.com, TonyZeoli.com, or 917-705-4700, 917-705-4700, which is my direct telephone number. And you can go, online on our page, on our website, digitalstrategyworks.com and tonyzeoli.com, and you can find portfolio content there, and you can contact us through an online form or sending a tweet or something like that. So we appreciate you joining us today. We hope that you got some value out of this just under 40-minute conversation about how it is to, today's topic is about how the challenges small businesses have with web development in general, with the decades of experience that I have, right? They can turn to me and say, I know you're X, but if I invest in you and doing my website, then I'm going to return Y. And they have to be willing to do that, willing to ask for dollars, willing to make sure that they get those parties in, and willing to work together, right, with me. So that's how we work together with Total Merchant Resources and SemperPlugins.com, right? So again, on that note, I want to end this call. We went over a bunch of different things like photography, videography, design and layout, colors, prints, motion, usability, accessibility, content, billing, production, radio and video, and then marketing, lead marketing, what's this? Pages and magnets. You want to have, a lead page where you point people to the page, they take a magnet, and then they go off to order products if they so inclined. You've got the blogging strategy, which is really important. We'll talk about that later. Then you've got retargeting, you've got SEO, analytics, and then you've got maintenance. Monthly site maintenance is critical to keeping your site healthy and clean from malware and whatnot. So we hope you enjoyed this podcast. We'll be back next Tuesday with another video podcast right here on Facebook Live, discussing some new topic as it relates to small businesses. So small businesses, if you're doing your website right now and you're finding that you're spending 2 to 3 weeks, maybe, just maybe, you shift your mindset into a brand agency mindset, because they can lead you to the Holy Grail. So we appreciate your time. Once again, Tony Zeoli, thank you very much.